They've been reaped. They've been purchased. And we know the tribulation period, the Great Tribulation, is the time of period where it's going to be the greatest number of martyrs. People are going to be martyred left and right. Either you take the mark of the beast or you die. That's going to be pretty much the option. And if you're a Christian, you're probably going to die even if you take the mark. But those who truly give their souls to Christ will find strength. I believe that with my whole heart. I don't think there will be one Christian, true servant of God, who will succumb to the mark of the beast. I think God will give them all supernatural strength if that's what it takes. I don't think anyone will falter because God doesn't get glory out of that. And one thing God is about is making sure He gets the glory and not Satan. So He tells them to reap. The earth is ripe. Then He sat on the cloud, swung His sickle over the earth, and the earth was reaped. Now, as far as I can tell, this is a singular event. This will be a separation, the good from evil. It's really kind of hard to pinpoint exactly if it's speaking about a very specific people because I don't have that much, not that much details given. Like this is over just in this area. It's kind of hard to tell. We don't have a whole lot of detail that gives us the answer to that particular thing we're looking for there. So, this particular verse, it comes down to pretty much, it's just discernment. That's all I've got on it. But the closest thing I've been able to come to at this point is that this is talking about the martyrdom of the Christians, of everybody. That's what this is supposed to signify. It tells the angel to reap them, because they're being killed in mass. It's going to be widespread death for anything Christian-like, Jew, or anybody that opposes the Antichrist. So literally, it will come down to take the mark or die. And that's pretty much what I believe this is supposed to signify. Verse 17, and another angel came out of the temple which is in heaven, and he also had a sharp sickle. Then another angel, the one who has the power over fire, came out from the altar, and he called with a loud voice to him who had a sharp sickle, saying, put in your sickle and gather the clusters. Well, if we gathered the fruit that was ripe, it stands to reason that the cluster would be along the same lines of the tares. It's a similar parable. The parable of the tares, and they're going to be gathered up, and they'll be essentially destroyed. Now, we get some really cool symbology here. Symbolism. Dadgummit, I guess I'm using that stupid word. Dadgummit. So the angel swung his sickle to the earth, gathered the clusters in the vine, and threw them into the great winepress of the wrath of God. Now, this is one of the other things that we know this is a future event, is that particular analogy. We'll see it again in a couple chapters ahead of us. But it says they're put into the winepress of the wrath of God. And this is what everyone at some point has heard, likely, that somewhere in Revelation, you'd hear the story about how the blood would flow as high as the horse's bridle. Somebody did some math on this and determined roughly how many people it would take to produce enough blood to make the Kedron Valley, make it fill blood 4.5 feet high. It would take roughly 300 billion people. I don't know that 300 billion people have lived across the entire span of this earth. It's possible. It's possible it's somewhere near that number. But we're only at 6 billion right now. And look how crowded this earth is. Yes, in Texas we have lots of free land, but as crowded as it is in places, do you think we could fit 300 billion people on this planet? I'm pretty sure our resources would deplete faster than we could do anything about it. So, more than likely, one or two things is going to happen here. Either it's going to be a supernatural event that somehow Christ will make the blood come out of their bodies and continue to come out of their bodies supernaturally, or I've come up with the second hypothesis. Possibility. I'm not stating this for a fact again, okay? This is merely possible. At no point has the Bible in Revelation told us that He turned the waters He turned into blood, to say He turned them back into water. It has not been said. Okay? So, that being said, it does not tell us what bodies of water will be turned into blood. Israel is not too far. It's right up against the coast, y'all. If that particular body of water was turned into blood, then getting that amount of blood from somewhere to the Kidron Valley would not be that hard. God could split a little fault line in the earth and turn it into a little, I don't know, what are those things called? Aqueducts. God can do anything He wants. He has plenty of seawater. He's trying to portion that into blood. Why not have the land up against Israel would be blood? It almost makes sense that the water in Israel was blood. Yeah. That pretty much concludes Revelation 14. Does anybody have any questions so far? Revelation 15. Then I saw another sign in heaven. I saw another sign in heaven. Great and marvelous, 7 angels who had 7 plagues, which are the last, because within them the wrath of God is finished. Okay, so right there, right away, it's setting a scene. This is a sign. He sees a sign that is depicted by 7 angels with 7 plagues. And it states right off the bat that that these 7 will finish the wrath of God. So, one of the most significant things here is this is the first time that we are positive we are coming out of the mid-trib time frame. Now, here's something kind of interesting. The mid-trib area is not a period of time that lasts a week or a month. The mid-trib events that we've been covering take up actually a big portion of the tribulation, that last 3.5 years. So the tribulation time frame is actually going to be mostly used up by the mid-trib events. I wrote a breakdown just to kind of make a little more sense. The bowl judgments do not happen right away. It will not be until later in the 3.5 years, the latter part, that will actually happen. So, let's just call it the roughly first half of the Great Tribulation. Because the first half is done, we can just focus on the last 3.5 years. So the first year and a quarter, what do we have? Or actually, a year and 3 quarters. It's about half the Great Tribulation. We have the enemy is confined to the earth. They kicked out of heaven. We covered that. Satan can't go upstairs no more. Christians are going to be martyred left and right. The Antichrist will destroy anyone who threatens his rule, which would be anybody who does not take his mark, threatens his rule, plus the 3 kings that he destroys once he takes power. The Antichrist will establish himself as God. He will perform the desecration of the temple. He'll be putting up idols all over the place, because once he says he's God, the false prophet will have idols erected everywhere. And the actual implementation of the mark. All that's not going to happen. That's all mid-trib events, and that's all not going to happen in a couple weeks or a month. I mean, there will still be a couple billion people left on this earth, and that's a lot of people to be marking. He's going to have some work to do, and it's going to take some time. This is not going to be a quick event. It will take probably at least a year, maybe 2, for him to get all this stuff organized. So this first verse, we're talking about the seven bowl judgments. Okay? So we're moving out of the mid-trib area into a more definitive time. We're moving back into God's wrath. Now, everything up until chapter 15 is going to be Satan's wrath. It's going to be him martyring Christians, martyring Jews, taking control, and all the things he's going to do. He'll be murdering people. It's going to be genocide. Probably the best word for it. And the worst part about it is, everyone who takes the mark will be supporting him. They're going to be like, yes, kill the Christians, kill the Jews. Because our beloved Antichrist is going to, our beloved leader, he's going to be unifying the lands. No more war. Once he's done, everyone's going to be happy. One religion, one everything. One currency. Happy world. I mean, makes you wonder how this earth is full of billions of suckers. Really. I mean, just absolute suckers. He's laughing his fiery little pants off. You know it. And it sucks. It frustrates me greatly. Verse 2, and I saw something like a sea of glass mixed with fire, and those who had been victorious over the beast and his image and the number of his name, standing on the sea of glass holding harps of God. This is great imagery here. And if you guys have any plan on asking me what it is, I don't know. This is John the Revelator. What does he say? Well, I saw something like a sea. Like a sea of glass. Okay? So in my head, I imagine standing on a beach, and all of a sudden, all the water turns into shards of glass. Are they little shards, big shards? He doesn't give me that kind of detail. But I try to imagine what he saw so that I can tell you what it is. That's a good question. I don't know. I really don't. This is literally, this is John, the Revelator. This is 2,000 years ago. He's describing as best as he can what he's seen. Why? Because he does not know what he's seen. He doesn't know what it is. And that's kind of a cool thing here. We'll know one day. But right now we don't know. All we can do is guess and speculate. Because he saw something like a sea of glass mixed with fire. I mean, it's not just glass with fire on top. The fire will be intermingled. It's mixed in and among the glass or whatever it is. So, I mean, this is kind of one of those things like, maybe it's like a bunch of tiny diamonds that, just randomly on fire. I mean, and it's a sea of them. I don't know. Or maybe it's like Christina thinks, and maybe it's more like it's perfectly flat. And it has that, it's clear, reflecting the glory of God. I mean, who knows? And maybe that's why it looks like there's fire in it, because it's reflecting the glory of God. Or maybe it's reflecting angels, and they're fiery angels. I mean, we can sit here and hypothesize this all day. Does it really matter? No. But it is kind of cool to have that kind of a scenario. Now, what I will tell you is I believe this is in the throne room. And the reason why, you would have to travel back to Revelation chapter 4. No. Yes? Yes. Verse 6, and before the throne, as it were a sea of glass, like a crystal, and in the midst of the throne, around about the throne, the four living creatures full of eyes before and behind. So, as only the time of Revelation, I see a sea of glass mentioned. So, my theory here is that what he sees, and I saw a sea of glass mixed with fire, and those who had been victorious over the beast and his image, and the number of his name, standing on the sea of glass holding harps of God. So, theoretically, the sea of glass is before the throne of God, has fire mixed in it, maybe because they narrowly escaped the wiles of the devil, caught their tail end on fire. I mean, I could hypothesize all day. I mean, I really don't know. But there's something about this sea now, because before it was just a sea of glass. Now it's a sea of glass mixed with fire. Something's changed. Now, here's the possibility. Those who die after the church is taken do not have their bodies. And this is a very specific people group standing on the sea. This is the people who were under the altar of God. The people who died for Christ, the martyrs. Now, it's possible that the early people who died, the early Christians, went under the altar. And that those, after the Great Tribulation period, once you go into the second half of the tribulation, into the Great Tribulation period, maybe they go onto the sea and not under the altar. I don't know. I can't tell you for a fact. But we do know that at the beginning of Revelation, there are souls under the altar. And then after the midway point, we're coming to into the latter part of the Great Tribulation, there are souls on the water, on the sea of glass. And now the sea of glass is described as being different. It's now a sea of glass mixed with fire. What does a soul look like without its body? Maybe it has a flaming kind of context to it? I don't know. Couldn't tell you.